So I'm going to tell you what really happened with Charter Amendment 18, and we know now that it's dead. It died by 304 votes. It was rejected, but let me tell you how it got started. So it got started actually back in December when I filed the Restore Election Confidence Initiative, and Kimsey and the prosecuting attorney's office were like, oh my gosh, we can't let this thing go forward because they're trying to tell us how to do our jobs, and we don't like that. So they quickly tried to, not follow the home rule charter and stop it. Well, I filed a writ, we reversed it, but Mr. Kimsey kept trying. Mr. Kimsey filed, our beautiful auditor, filed a memo with the prosecuting attorney's office trying to say how this was not legal, that it was not within the scope of legal local initiative powers. The prosecuting attorney's office, probably because they knew that, I'd filed the writ, and I was watching, and if they kind of had any more missteps, they could be opening themselves up to further legal action, as they say. And so Mr. Kimsey tried. They said, nope, we're going to follow the law this time. This is a lawful, in our opinion, this is within the scope of local initiative powers. But that did not stop Mr. Kimsey. What did he do? Goes to the county and he proposes Charter 18, and he tells them this is the motivation. Take a listen to this, and I want you to hear how he's talking about that we need to limit, or we need to kind of prevent more these proposals that could cause government disillusionment. So listen.
The second proposed amendment that I'd like for you to consider regards Section 7.2 of the initiatives. And that is what I'm attempting to do with that is to, again, clarify the original language in the Charter that has been interpreted very recently in a way that I know was not the intent of the people who drafted the Charter, because I drafted the Charter. And so the clarification is to really make sure that there's a two-step process when somebody files an initiative. And let me back up just by saying I think one of the most damaging things we see in our government is when, if you think about the statewide initiatives, it's when someone sponsors an initiative, goes out and collects signatures, it gets on the ballot, voters approve it, then it's taken to court, and the judge says that initiative is unconstitutional. And voters, I think, are, I know voters are very disillusioned with their government when that happens. So the intent of the original charter, and then clarified in this proposed amendment, is to prevent that. Because as I'm sure you know, there are very clear limits on what local initiatives can do, much more limited than what state initiatives can do. They're limited, local initiatives are limited by the Constitution, state law, and court rulings. So it's, again, this original language was an attempt, or was the goal, to say, if you're presenting an initiative here locally that does one of these, I think, 6 things that are defined as clearly outside of what a local initiative can do, then that initiative is not going to be presented to voters for their consideration.
So did you hear what he was saying? He's saying at the heart of it, we need to further limit what initiatives are coming forward, to kind of help the little people still believe in the government. Hey, Mr. Kimsey, you know what causes government disillusionment? When activist judges don't listen and follow the Constitution and strike down initiatives. That causes disillusionment. That's what you should be focusing on. But instead, Mr. Kimsey decides, how can we change the charter because we got caught, we got busted not following the law, so let's change the law and put a back door that says, however, this is not a complete list, meaning opening a back door to the limitations, and now they can just prevent any, if this passed, they could prevent any initiatives they don't like, and all they'd have to do is come up with some kind of garbage legal opinion and say, sorry, suck on that, and then you have to go to court. You have to pay for all the legal. It's very difficult. And they would have the upper hand. They'd have the high ground in this. This is what they wanted to do. But let's take a look at something. So their efforts didn't stop there. Continued to manipulate voters by withholding what this amendment was actually going to do. So you heard in Kimsey's own voice that this was going to we needed to do something about the limitations and preventing, initiatives that would just get later blocked because of, all this problems that it would cause. But that's not what's on the ballot title. Take a look at what's on the ballot title. The ballot title does not mention it. They intentionally left this out, which, by the way, violates state law. This ballot title was not compliant to state law. Now, I tried to challenge it, but Kimsey held on to the release of it. So you only have 10 business days to legally challenge. He held on to it for at least, I think it was 5 business days. So it cut the time in half. And then by the time I kind of figured it out, put a legal challenge together, it got dismissed because of technicalities. PA's office did make some small concessions that I think did make a big difference. So one of the things that they did change is they wanted to use the word to describe the financial estimates and legal opinions. They wanted to use the word statements. So instead of financial estimates, it would say financial statements. Instead of legal opinions, it would say legal statements. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but small subtleties of language does make a difference. And so I was able to get them to change that back to the original language that the Charter Amendment actually uses, and might have made a difference. But talk about government disillusionment. It's disillusioning to people when you have government officials that are actively working against the people and trying to take away their powers, their rights to initiative, backhandedly, backdoor it, and empower government officials over the people. That causes disillusionment. Auditor Kimsey needs to focus and do his job and listen to the people and serve them, and not, government elites. But unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. And so I wanted to give you more of the backstory, that this wasn't just, something to help improve the citizenry. This was a real direct response from the Restore Election Confidence Initiative, and they wanted to change the law in order to open up so that they could do more shenanigans of what they tried, but make it just legal, so they'd have the cover of law to hide behind. And they really tried to pull out the stops to prevent the public from knowing what Charter 18 would actually do. And it would actually expand and change the limitations section of the charter. And they didn't want to tell you. And fortunately, it died, and we were able to stop this from happening. But I think there needs to be accountability for what they really tried to do here.